Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I have got part 1 of my Simon Says Stamp January 2019 card kit to share with you today, and here I'm giving you a quick look at what was included in the kit. Here for card number 1, I'm going to start out by stamping out this little penguin and snowman on some scrap Neenah cardstock, and I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Next, I've grabbed that remaining Neenah cardstock and I'm going to trim out a hillside using my Lawn Fawn Stitched Hillside border dies. And this is actually going to create 2 hillsides, so I'm going to save the other one for later. It's just one side will have the stitching and the other side will not. So I've also taken this snowflake and light blue pattern paper. I trimmed that down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to place this down on top of a card base. This is made from MFT's After Midnight. And I'm going to use this hillside to create a slider card. So what I'm doing here is lining this up, deciding how far high I want my hill to be. And I've got my 2 little characters there. I'm going to have the snowman on one side and the penguin on the other, and I'll have him skating up to the snowman with a little heart in his hand. So I'm figuring out where I want to place my channel. I'm going to create the channel using this die from the MFT Blueprints 32 die kit. And so here I'm just checking the height of everything and where I want that slider to be. I'm going to hold that in place with some Post-it tape, and then I'll take that to my Big Shot and run it through to create the channel. I've also taken some more Neenah cardstock and I've trimmed out a slider that measures 3/4 of an inch. It's a little difficult to see because it's white on white, but as I lay the tape down, you'll be able to see a little bit better. What I'm going to do is create the slider channel, and you could do this with foam tape. It would give you a little bit more dimension, and it actually does help things slide a little bit easier. But because I'm planning on mailing this, I wanted to keep it as flat as I could. So there you'll see I'm just creating a channel. I'm leaving myself a little bit of excess on either side of the channel so it has a nice smooth area that it can slide back and forth in. And I'm going to use this 1/2 inch and 1/8 of an inch Scor-Tape to fill in the rest of the back of this hillside. One of the things that I really love about that 1/8 inch Scor-Tape is you can so easily manipulate that to go around any curve that you need. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that that slider is going to stay in place when I put the hillside down. I actually didn't need to do this because it was really easy to take this slider the whole way out and put it back in again, but if you want to do it the way I did, this is how I did it, though it's not necessary. I'm just putting some Post-it tape down on the front to hold that channel, that slider in place on top of the channel as I place this down. And then I'm going to peel that away, and I'm just going to double check to make sure that everything is sliding properly. And there you go. So I decided that one layer of the Neenah cardstock was just a little too flimsy to use. It was sort of difficult to try and push it back in. It wanted to bend. So what I decided to do was trim off a piece of Neenah, and then I'm gonna add Scor-Tape behind the entire back portion of that. I'll peel that away here, place it down again back on the Neenah that I just cut it off of. And then I'll trim that down to 3/4 of an inch wide, and that just makes it a little bit sturdier as I'm pushing and pulling that along the channel. If you wanted to use foam tape to pop up your hillside and create that channel, I don't think this step would be necessary. Off to the side there, you can see I've already placed my snowman down. I did color these in with my Prismacolor colored pencils, and I'll have those listed on my blog post for you. And I've glued down the snowman, just making sure to only put glue on the top and bottom to make sure nothing gets stuck on the portion that's sliding back and forth. I've grabbed the 1/4 inch foam tape that I have, and I've just trimmed about 1/16 of an inch off of that. It's just slightly too large for this channel. And then I find when I'm making a card like this, it's easier to have it sort of slid into position and place the character than to sort of guess when you have them off to the other side. So I'm gonna add more Scor-Tape behind him, but this is just to keep him level with the card base. So I'm not going to peel off the backing. It's just to make sure that he doesn't get bent as he's mailed and sliding back and forth. Now there you'll see I've also used the heart dies that come in the Blueprints 32 kit to trim a heart out of MFT's Pink Lemonade. And there I've placed down my penguin on top of the foam tape that I have on the slider channel. And now I'll add a little bit of glue and place that heart in his hand so he's skating that heart over to the snowman. I trimmed out a few more hearts. I felt like the front of the card just looked a little bit empty, so I used the smallest heart die also from that Blueprints 32 kit, and I'm going to place those down here with glue dots. And then I wanted to add a little bit more shine to the front of the card, so I'm going to grab that bottle of Glossy Accents and add that on top of all 3 of the hearts. For the inside, I'm working on a Neenah panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4. I'm going to stamp out the sentiment, "I'm snow in love with you," and I'm going to use my American Crafts pigment ink. This is the color Taffy, and it matches the sort of pinky purple color on the snowman scarf on the front really well. I've also, as you can see, trimmed out a few more of those Pink Lemonade hearts, and I'm going to place those on the inside as well. I'll add some glue to the back of that and then place that down on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 1. Ooh, okay, that was a long one, so this one is going to be a really quick one. I have grabbed the MFT Sentiment Label Strip die, and I'm trimming that out of some Black Recollections cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and stamp on that "Snow Much Thanks," and I'm going to first hit that with my powder tool, and then I will go ahead and stamp that out with my Versamark ink. And then I will heat set that using my Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. I've gone ahead here and added some Scotch foam tape to the back of that sentiment strip, and I've trimmed down this penguin pattern paper to 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to place that here down towards the bottom third of the card. I went ahead and trimmed off that excess, and then I'm adding some ATG here, and I'll place this down on the top of my card base. And this is a card base made from MFT's Poppy cardstock. For the inside, I've trimmed out one of those cut-aparts that reads, "If kisses were snowflakes, I'd send you a blizzard." I added some ATG to the back of that, and I'm placing that on the inside of the card base. And that will complete card number 2. For card number 3, I decided I wanted to do a little bit of no-line coloring, so I've grabbed a panel of Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and I trimmed that to 5.5 by 4 1/4. I wanted to give myself a little bit of leeway to trim this off. And I'm stamping out the snowmen several times here using my Simon Says Stamp Barely Beige ink. I have again gone ahead and colored this off camera for the sake of time, but I've used my Prismacolors, and I will have those listed for you on my blog post. There I've trimmed that down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to use this white Jelly Roll pen that came in the kit to add some snowflake dots around the panel and sort of fill in the empty spaces. For the inside here, I'm going to stamp directly on the panel, and I've grabbed this "Do you want to build a snowman" sentiment. I'm stamping that out using my Intense Black ink. And then I grabbed a few of these snowflakes, and I'm going to stamp those using my Lawn Fawn Minty Fresh ink. I've gone ahead and popped that snowman panel up with some Scotch foam tape, and I'm going to go ahead and place that down on the front of the card base. And that will complete card number 3. For card number 4, I decided I wanted to create a shaker card, and I love this mitten pattern paper. It was my favorite. So I wanted to get as much use of that as I could, and decided that I would use this as a border, and then I'd have the inside so I could use that on another card as well. So I've used 2 of my Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies, and these are the 2 that measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 and 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. So that's going to create the border for my card. I'm working directly on one of the white card bases, and I've lined up that sentiment Snow Much with the smaller sentiment Thanks. I'm going to stamp that out using Lawn Fawn's Lobster ink. Here I've grabbed that border, and I'm going to create 2 layers of Scotch foam tape going around the outside of that. And I'm just using my 1/4 inch foam tape roll. And I think I left out a bit in the editing here. Sorry about that. I did trim down a piece of acetate, and before I placed down the foam tape, I used some Scor-Tape and placed the acetate down behind that window, and then on top of that I've done the double layer of the foam tape. Here I've got some Tailored Expression Snow Flurries sequin mix. I'm going to place that right in the center there, peel away the backing from my foam tape, and then I will place that down right on top of the card base. For the inside, I've grabbed a Neenah panel, trimmed to 4x5 1/4, and I'm laying out a few of these snowflakes. I'm going to keep this really simple. I'm going to stamp this out using Simon Says stamp Dapper Denim, and that matches the dark blue of the mittens on the border on the front pretty well. I have grabbed my ATG gun. I'll add a little bit of that to the back of the panel and then place this on the inside of the card base. And that will complete card number 4. For card number 5, I am stamping out these 3 snowmen, and you'll see me stamp them here in VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I was originally thinking I would use my Prismacolors on these, but then later decided that I wanted to do some Copic coloring. So I don't recommend that you use this ink for Copics. I did later on go back and re-stamp these using my Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. But I don't have footage of that. So just keep that in mind depending on how you're going to color. This would be great for your Prismacolors, but not so great for Copics, as it will sometimes smear. So I have off camera colored those in. I will have the Copic colors for you on the blog post. And I've trimmed down this navy blue pattern paper to 4x5 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and hit that here with my powder tool, and then I'm going to stamp the sentiment, "There's snow one like you," using my Versamark ink, and I will go ahead and heat set that with my Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White embossing powder. I then decided I wanted some snowflakes in the background, and I hadn't yet used these little circle snowflakes. So I'm just using and hand stamping with one of my acrylic blocks to add those all around the background. And again, I will heat set those using that Fine Detail White. Finally, to add a little bit more to that, I'm going to use the white gel pen that came in the kit, and I'll just add a few smaller snowflake dots all around the background. For the 2 larger snowmen that are in the background, I'm going to glue those directly down using my art glitter glue. And then for that little one in the front there, I'm going to use some of my Sticky Thumb foam dots. I'm going to pop that whole panel up using some Scotch foam tape, and then I'm going to place this down on that sort of medium blue cardstock that came in the kit. For the inside, I'm again on a Neenah panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4. And I'm going to stamp out the sentiment, "Missing You," using my Lawn Fawn Deep Sea ink. I then wanted to sort of mimic those snowflakes from the front, so I've grabbed my Minty Fresh ink from Lawn Fawn, and I've just stamped those snowflake bubbles on the opposite bottom side of the panel. I'm going to add an extra strip of that navy blue pattern paper across the bottom here. And then I'll add some ATG to the back of that and place it on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 5. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.